Good morning and welcome to the Customer Experience Management 2017 live from Cape Town. This morning I've got Kobus van Westhuizen, the CEO of Genii Analytics. I met him 3 years ago at the same event. We landed up spending some time that evening. Was also nominated, as in Genii Analytics were nominated for the Customer Insight Awards. I'm going to hand over to Kobus to give us an introduction in terms of his personal experiences and the company that he actually leads at the moment.
Good. Yeah, thank you very much. This journey actually started literally 3 years ago when we met. It's a team of us, 4 of us who left the customer service industry. We were involved in large call centers at the time, and we decided to get into analytics in the customer experience space. We felt that was a gap, big opportunity, and that migrated into our whole trend into artificial intelligence. But we literally sticking to our sort of niche market. So all our AI models are in the customer experience space. In terms of how do we improve customer experience, how do we improve service, how do we enable the digital sort of tsunami that's hitting us, correct? It's all about making sure that automation and robotics don't overpower the human element. So you can automate a lot of stuff, but how does that impact the customer experience? You can totally destroy the customer experience through robotics and automation, and we sort of make sure that there's some level of sanity in making sure that we don't destroy the customer experience. Yeah. So it started 3 years ago. We now have a couple of really nice big brands helping mobile companies, some insurance companies, and retail companies to understand the customers better and start predicting the customer behavior. So that's really in the space of predicting the customer behaviors and then put the brand on the front foot to service those customers better. Good.
And that's starting to become quite an interesting notion in terms of marrying the customer and the experience that the customer should experience by using artificial intelligence to bridge the gap between an agent and the customers, or the engagement between the brand and the customer itself. How do you see artificial intelligence, and this is your particular strength and your onus in terms of being able to bridge that gap and incorporating and embracing AI into the space? Are we getting closer, or is there still a journey that yourselves within Genii and the brands out there in terms of embracing this AI into the experience space? What is your take on that?
So, it's a very good question, because when you start talking about AI, it's so broad. And the application of it is so undefined at this point in time. Is what do you do with it? So, I'm literally, I think, one of the oldest people involved in AI companies today, but we just saw a gap in the customer service space to get brands on the front foot of the consumer behaviors rather than be reactive all the time. But the application of AI is hitting us like a tsunami at the moment, and everybody's talking it. So we decided to take a step back and reverse engineer AI. So what is the business case, or what do you want to achieve with AI? Then you reverse engineer the algorithms. What algorithms do I need? What data do I need? How do I put the whole thing together? So we've actually developed almost like AI in a box to make sure that you have a model that's working. It takes some time for this machine learning to mature. Once you have a mature model, can you go and help brands on a repetitive basis. So we stuck to the niche. We said the one model is a customer service demand prediction model for consumers, and the other one is a customer churn. So who's going to churn, why they're going to leave you, and when they're going to leave you. And on a customer service demand, almost the same concept around who's going to contact you, for what reason, what are the root causes of that, and when that's going to happen. So when you know that 30 or 60 days ahead of the curve, you can do a lot of proactive stuff. And then that's where digitalization comes in as well. You can now build your digital strategies based on some real AI models that data coming through, yes. Yeah.
And that is key. And as you mentioned right at the beginning, the AI is a journey. It's still early days, and it is a wide minefield. So, over time, those models will mature, like you say. They will also grow. They will also be changed, updated to actually suit what the requirements are. In terms of that, one of the hard-hitting questions at the moment, generally across the AI board, is the security around how AI is going to be contained and how that containment around AI is going to relate to human interaction, and the security around a very broad general security question around how AI is going to move forwards with regards to human interaction. What is your perspective on the security concerns at the moment regarding AI?
So it is, it's extremely topical. AI at the moment is unregulated. There's no guidelines. It's a bit, I say to the team all the time, we're about 30 people now in the company, in the labs, between data scientists, business analysts, and so on. And you're continuously making up the game yourselves. There's no rules, there are no games. So you're reinventing games as we go along. The danger in that is probably, as you've heard from Elon Musk and Zuckerberg, and there are definitely the different schools of thought. Personally, I am for and against it. So in the cognitive space, so where Elon Musk is very real, and I agree with his view, is in the cognitive AI space. It's absolutely unregulated. It's driven by powerful businessmen with a lot of money, and it almost turning it into their own personal hobbies. And I think what he's saying is, guys, it can get out of hand and out of control. So when machines start creating their own languages to communicate amongst themselves, which they did, the chatbots, immediately we're out of control as humans. So my theory is, there I agree with Elon Musk, but on the other side, where you use just AI, neural networks and algorithms for data enhancements and business transformation, there's no harm in that. So it will improve businesses. Then there's the argument around, will bots take over human jobs? So I still say to today, it's not bots or humans. It's not bots versus humans. It's bots, humans and bots. They need to work together. So where you can enhance a process, the humans are still going to be there. They're going to have their jobs, but they're going to focus on more human and experience-based stuff, where your robotics can do the repetitive, high-volume, simple customer service and customer experience issues, and the humans can focus on the more complex and where more empathy is required. So at this point in time, I think if we slowly tread into that, and I'm a big component for, we've got to put some guidelines around the security. The data security is a big thing. So when we run models today, we started off with putting everything in the cloud. And we still have that capability today, but the more onerous the data flows and the bigger, I mean, for one company, we running 1 billion data points a month through the AI algorithm. At that stage, you need to be in their network. Then the data security is fairly taken care of. But at the moment, obviously, when you work with customer data, you need to be compliant to that regulatory framework and environment. So as AI companies, we have to, that's an easy one though. You just comply to that and then you can run your models, yeah.
And that leads me on to the next question, which really addresses a concern you had right in the beginning, but you've clarified that now, is the governance around the confidentiality of the data and the need to build or have the discussion right now, which you refer to from an Elon Musk perspective, where governments and institutions at the moment are not regulated in terms of, what are the boundaries of AI, or do we even need boundaries? So, there's been a lot of global discussion where, many organizations, even Steve Bezos is talking about this, DeepMind, which is now part of Google, they were able to crack stone, and it's incredible to being able to actually have a machine become the master at that game. From a governance perspective, if there is a recommendation that you could make on your part to South Africa and to countries out in Africa, where we are always an afterthought in terms of what's happening in the Western world, typically speaking, what would your advice be to government organizations and to legislatures in terms of starting or wanting to start that type of discussion around the governance around AI? What would you recommend from that perspective?
Yeah, I'm not a big proponent of governance and regulation, but having said that, I think we're in a typical one of those technology waves that's flowing much faster than governments and regulatory bodies are still trying to understand and catch up. And we're regulating still telecommunications, those sort of environments, and it's moved on. Everything is mobile and digital already, and governments and regulators are trying to catch up. I think the whole AI thing is where I'm a very strong proponent of is ethical AI. So on the data and the data security side, I think we're okay. We're highly regulated. We just need to comply with that and make sure that we don't, from an AI perspective, if you start using data, it needs to be structured properly, it needs to be managed properly so you don't have data leaks and so on. And nowadays the AI labs are highly structured. Firewalls coming out of your ears and all of those stuff are taken care of. The ethical side of things is where we can start. So the one area we can self-regulate, and especially South Africa and Africa, we can drive that, is let's make sure we're into ethical AI, because that's a good start. The moment you get into robotics and the cognitive side of things, it's becoming really grey really quickly, and we know when it's ethical and when it's not ethical. So where it's improve a business process or automate a process, or it starts predicting consumer behaviors and those sort of things, I don't believe there's anything unethical around that. And it's always a case of, you can even ask the analysts and the scientists in the labs, you say, do you feel good about what you're doing? And they very quickly will say yes, and I'm okay, this is cool stuff. Or they go like, ooh, and we're not too sure about that. So I think we can definitely start putting some framework, putting some association together, and there's already some starting now, to firstly, as businessmen and as scientists and AI, development labs, start with the ethical stuff, because that you can tick, and then look at what regulation and compliance moving forward. But I can't see governments catching up. You know, honestly, these models develop so quickly. The model that we're running this month is different from what we've learned the last month. So how they're going to catch up, I don't know. Yeah. So, but I think it's up to us to make sure that we keep it ethical.
And I look forward to the progress in terms of that model development. We're going to be we're live streaming this at the moment, and the Kinetic, as part of the Customer Experience Management Summit event, are going to look to do the same in next year's platform. So we'd be very glad to have you here again next year in terms of catching up again. We did see each other 3 years ago, and this has been an amazing, exciting conversation. It is a new area in terms of AI, and I guess the key component is regular updates in terms of what's happening in the space is going to be extremely critical, not only to the success of it, but also to the collaboration side of it. From a collaboration perspective, what is your perspective in terms of the ability for South Africans, for Africans, to collaborate in the build out of these AI models?
Well, that's a really good question. If you asked me 5 years ago, before I started this company, would I get into AI? It wasn't even on my radar. But then as the opportunity developed with the customers, so the big brands they are starting to adopt it, they're looking into it in a big way, and they do see the opportunity, not just in prediction models, but also in enabling robotics and automation, chatbots. Nowadays everything that goes into the digital space can be enhanced through AI. Collaboration, we got to, we have AI companies also like Pivotal Talent, who's running their whole recruitment model on AI. So the collaboration there is already happening. There's products like Guru, which is Hi.Guru, which is a customer service chat platform. We're developing, enabling AI model for them. So there's definitely, the collaboration is starting. We need to accelerate though. At the moment, the big collaboration that's happening is between big companies and the business side of them. The IT components, I think at this stage to a lesser extent, they're an enabling environment, but the art of the possible for AI sits with business. And then the AI companies who can accelerate models for them is really where the collaboration is happening now. And I think that is what's putting the speed in AI adoption. Look, I'll be the first to admit it's not all rosy. We're entering territory, it's right on the front of innovation. You win some, you lose some. There's you don't always get it right, so you have to collaborate with your clients and with other parties to get it right. But I think for South Africa specifically, and Africa, there's a huge opportunity. We're sitting with a bit of a shortage of data scientists, so we already start to collaborate with universities and institutions where people are busy with their masters and PhDs and so on, and we're starting to pull those resources in already. We don't want them all to go overseas, and I think we can build actually quite a powerful AI competency. We already offshoring, and we're already exporting AI models to the rest of the world. We're providing AI models to insurance companies in the UK, to a mobile company in the United States. So I feel that we can grow that very nicely, that competence in South Africa, and create powerful jobs that way. They do say that a data scientist is one of the sexiest jobs in the new millennium going forward. Where did that come from? you know. So
I've got a question for you on that one. I've been following myself the square kilometre array now for quite some time. On the scientific side of things, in terms of the large volumes of data that those telescopes, that single telescope is actually going to generate. And I think this is to your point, which is, in this country and just generally across the globe now, there is a shortage of data scientists. And like you were saying, it's quite a thing to be a data scientist nowadays. With the rapid processing of Python and R and all those types of capability today, the square kilometre array is going to generate apparently in less than 2 months more data than we've seen in our entire lifetimes. So in terms of the square kilometre array, because this is on our doorstep, do you think that the models that you're building today in terms of the current environment that you're working in could be reused, could be updated, could be remodeled, could be retrofitted, could be already substance, could be contributed to what the square kilometre array will eventually throw us in a couple of years?
So just to come back to the barriers to entry for AI, it's quite interesting. And what is accelerating AI today are projects like that. So the whole concept of big data. Remember, 5 years ago, everybody was big data, big data, big data. I like to refer to as take big data, turn it into smart data first, and then you run it through AI models. Then you become more effective and it becomes more accurate. But even just 5 years ago, if you think about running an AI model today with a platform like Azure or web services, Amazon Web Services and so on, those platforms and environments have removed the barrier to processing power. 5 years ago, for me to run 1 billion points of data through an algorithm, would have cost you 15 million rands worth of a data farm, data center, to run consistently, and then maybe the next month you don't need it again. So the cost associated with running the AI models have reduced significantly. The flexibility is now there, so people can also put their foot into it. The R&D component of that is, let me run the model, let me see how it works. If 3 months into it, it doesn't work and I don't see any significant changes or outputs, you turn it off. So it's very flexible to get into AI today. But again, I would warn people to don't get into AI where you say, I'm going to feed 1 billion data points to the AI model and see what it tells me. Because it's a bit like a child's brain. You can put 5, 6, 7 subjects of information through it, and they're going to get a 60, 70% average. Or you put one maths data stream through that, and they get a 95% average. So it works on the same model. So that's why I still say, decide what business need or requirement you want fixed with it, and then you reverse engineer it. But yeah, I think those projects, as you know, everybody's talking about AI robotics. I think where I do want to punt ourselves a little bit is we have made it work. It's taken 3 years, but there's a strong ROI. Companies are using it, and we've sort of made it real. What the future is going to look like, I have no idea. But we're going to stick to our niche of the whole customer service, customer experience, consumer behavioral sciences. That's where we want to stay involved in.
Kobus, thank you so much for expending some of your time here at the booth for this interview. Really glad to have seen you again here. We've got Kobus van der Westhuizen, the CEO of Genii Analytics, live from the Customer Experience Management 2017. Is there a closing statement that you would like to pass on to the online audience?
Yeah, I think it's such an exciting time. For me, it's just like you're going to see entrepreneurs coming into the space all over the place. You have all these youngsters coming through um, with ideas, and we do see though that very clever people start their own AI companies. But a lot of them fail in terms of not commercializing, not being able to commercialize the AI and help, brands, for instance, and so on. And we need to work together. There's people who are entrepreneurs like myself. I'm not a data scientist, but we hire the data scientist. And the data scientists would need to be able to build value propositions from the AI to commercialize it. Otherwise, you just stay in an R&D cycle all the time, and you actually stay in as a non-profit. So, I think we need to, at events like this, we need to collaborate, we need to network, and we need to see where this exciting environment is taking us. Let's see how that all pans out.
Well, we look forward to catching up with you again next year in terms of that. And there potentially, like you mentioned, there'll be a lot of new startups in terms of AI growing all over the place. And there's a potential that there could be more AI at the summit next year.
Yeah.
Kobus, thank you again very much for your time. We're live from the CEM Africa Summit. We're going to take a quick short break and we'll be back for another interview pretty soon.